On Wednesday, April 14th, at approximately 9:18 p.m., Town of Wallkill police officers responded to a report of an assault with a weapon in front of the UU restaurant, 465 Route 211 East in the town of Wallkill. Upon arrival, officers discovered the victim, Charles Miller, a 48-year-old Walden, New York resident, suffering from a gunshot wound to the abdomen. Investigators quickly identified a suspect, Hector Luna, L-U-N-A, a 27-year-old town of Wallkill resident, as the assailant. Based on evidence obtained at the scene, it is believed that the suspect shot the victim because the suspect believed the victim was a police officer. Throughout the night and into the day on Thursday, April 15th, detectives and our law enforcement partners diligently pursued leads and tips. Last night at 10 p.m., the defendant was apprehended at the Hampton Inn, 122 West Fall Drive in Matamoros, Pennsylvania. The suspect was subsequently booked into the Pike County Jail and is awaiting extradition to New York, where he will face criminal charges for, among other things, assault and criminal possession of a weapon. Here, from the onset, there was a shared sense of urgency to apprehend the suspect who committed a senseless act of violence against a member of our community who was simply out enjoying dinner with his family in one of our town's restaurants. Throughout the investigation, all the law enforcement agencies and prosecutors worked cohesively to bring a just and swift conclusion to this investigation. I commend the law enforcement agencies involved in this extensive investigation, including, obviously, members of the Town of Wallkill Police Department, their Detective Bureau under the supervision of Sergeant Frank Scala, members of the New York State Police, FBI Safe Streets Task Force, of which one of our members has been assigned, and that is Detective Christopher Holtz, for their support during this investigation. Obviously, the Orange County District Attorney's Office, represented here by D.A. Hoovler and A.D.A. Brimmer, City of Middletown Police Department, the Orange County Sheriff's Office. We've been partnered with them as part of the Orange County Drug Task Force for years, and they lended us an incredible amount of logistical assistance during the past 24 hours. The Woodbury Police Department, the Port Jervis Police Department, the Hudson Valley Crime Analysis Center, who was critical with helping us gain intelligence throughout this investigation, the Eastern Pike County Regional Police Department, the Pennsylvania State Police Department, the Pike County District Attorney's Criminal Investigations Division, the Town of Wallkill Supervisor, obviously Frank Danto is here today and going to speak next, and the whole Town of Wallkill Board, especially Councilman Eric Valentin, who is the Police Committee member, for the town board support throughout this investigation and throughout everything they do for us here. So at this point, I will turn over the podium to Town of Wallkill Supervisor Frank Danto. Frank, please.
Thank you, Chief. This is a moment that most elected officials would like to avoid. When we have senseless acts of violence in our community, these things make us feel tense and uptight as residents in the area. And I have to commend the police department and the partnerships that we have, because it's those things that make us feel safe. So I want to thank the police chief and all of the departments in their hard work and investigation to make this a swift and speedy apprehension. Thank you.
I'm District Attorney David Hoovler, the Orange County District Attorney. First and foremost, I'd like to thank law enforcement for their cooperation here. Obviously, as what you heard from the chief, a lot of different law enforcement agencies worked together on this case very quickly to bring about the apprehension that occurred. Obviously, the defendant in this particular case is going to be charged with assault in the first degree. That's Class B violent felony, or Class B felony here in the state of New York, punishable up to 25 years, and also criminal possession of a weapon, which is punishable up to 15 years, and those can be enhanced depending on the defendant's record. Obviously, it's troubling for me as district attorney anytime I see a report go out, the initial report that went out on this case, that this individual was just having dinner in the town of Wallkill with his family, and he was targeted because the defendant, for one reason or another, and I'm not going to speculate what those reasons were, whether they were, how he got them, he thought this individual was a police officer, but fact of the matter is, that's not going to be tolerated here in this county and the community, and people have to stand up. We need law enforcement, we need our police to be able to protect us. And when someone, albeit mistakenly, is targeted or thought to be targeted because the person thinks that they are involved in law enforcement, that cannot be tolerated. The defendant is currently in Pike County awaiting extradition. The case in the district attorney's office has been handled by Kelly Grimmer over to my far left. Ms. Grimmer is an experienced prosecutor. She'll be handling the case, and I have all the faith in the world that she will handle this case appropriately and bring this case to justice. I just remind you at this time, despite the fact that someone's under arrest, despite here that we're talking, under our system, the defendant is still innocent until proven guilty. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. I'll open the floor to questions. Hank?
Was the weapon licensed?
I'm not going to comment on the status of the weapon at this time.
Can you say what caliber it was?
It was a small caliber handgun.
When do we expect him to be brought back to New York?
We're working, our district attorney's office is working in conjunction with the Pike County District Attorney's Office. So the way the process went yesterday was, once we developed probable cause in New York, we brought the case to our district attorney's office, and we drew up an arrest warrant. It was signed by a town justice. Once we had the arrest warrant in hand, the investigation continued. Later in the day, when we identified where this, or we located the suspect, I should say, in Pennsylvania, we began working with their prosecutor's office to draw up a search warrant, which was necessary to enter the room with the assistance of the state police in Pennsylvania. So at this point, it's in the criminal justice system. It's going to be a collaboration between New York State and Pennsylvania as far as getting him back here, so I really can't comment on the timeline.
As little as perhaps a couple weeks to as much as 6 months, depending on the process.
Got it. Do we know what he was doing in Pennsylvania? Was he fleeing?
It's believed he fled to Pennsylvania, and throughout the night, from the onset of the incident and throughout the night and into the next day, the investigators in this case, from all the agencies that were involved, engaged in good old-fashioned police work, following up lead after lead after lead and tip, and ultimately that led us to Pennsylvania. We started to develop a high degree of confidence early in the afternoon at the vicinity where he was located based on some information we received, and as the day developed, our investigators with the FBI and Pennsylvania authorities tracked him down to this hotel, and sure enough, that's where he was located. But I'm not sure, other than the fact he fled there seeking safe haven, I'm not sure why he fled to that particular location.
How was he identified, since this appears to be a random shooting? Was the victim able to identify his attacker in any capacity, describe what he looked like, the license plate?
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on the identification methods used.
How about social media? Did that play a role in ultimately being able to capture Luna? It appears as though he was making multiple posts throughout the day, even kind of taunting police to find me, come find me.
We actively monitored social media throughout the investigation, but once again, it was good old-fashioned police work, following up leads. Some of the investigators are here today. Bobby Reed is here, Dane Wakefield is here. They were out there relentlessly following up leads, and once it comes back to good old-fashioned police work, they did a spectacular job. As Detective Denathley, obviously, the case investigator, that was primarily what led to the success in this case.
Did he have a criminal past?
I'm not going to comment on his previous record.
How disturbing is it for you as a chief member of law enforcement that this individual was targeted seemingly because he was thought to be a police officer?
Well, first and foremost, it's very alarming. It's very alarming that an innocent person who came to our town to enjoy dinner with his family. I just met with the family immediately prior to this press conference to update them, obviously, before we met here now. And they were sharing the story with me. It was one of the first times the family got together to go out post-COVID and enjoy an evening together. And to see such a random act of violence in our town against a member of our community who was out enjoying dinner with his family, And whether he was chosen because the suspect believed he was a police officer or not, just the fact that it's a very random act of violence is very alarming. It's a thriving commercial district where this occurred. It's the heart and soul of our economic engine in this town. And to see something like that happen at a popular restaurant, which I've frequented, which I've gone to with my family, and others here have, it's just very concerning. So whether or not the reasoning, well, part of the reasoning was what the defendant thought, irrespective of that, it's just very alarming.
And how's Mr. Miller doing?
He's in very serious condition. The hospital's doing a wonderful job. It's wonderful having a trauma center here in the town, because unfortunately when these types of incidents do occur, whether they're as a result of criminal activity or a result of a serious accident, it's a great asset to the town, having a level 2 trauma center in a town. I want to say maybe but for the trauma center being here, this case may have gone different, but having a trauma center right here in the town certainly helped the victim. But once again, he is in very, very serious condition, and right now, our thoughts and our best wishes are for him and his family, for